I'm Melissa.
And I'm Mike.
Welcome back to the A&M podcast. And
Currently,
Thursday.
currently still named that.
Let me fix my
I think
angle.
we have to stop teasing a name change and either do it or don't, you know?
True. Yeah, maybe. Maybe, or we can just keep, talking about it until it comes into fruition. That's our
Yeah,
manifestation.
yeah, there we go. So, True
So,
Crime Thursday or
true.
Friday or whatever day you're listening to this.
Right. Maybe you're listening to us as you fall asleep at night. And in that case, I'll talk a little softer.
Yeah, in that case, I'll put on my soothing voice.
I actually love listening to like podcasts and things like that before bed when I'm
Yeah,
like just on the verge of like falling asleep, you know what I mean? But don't just want to like lay there in silence and darkness. I like to put a podcast or something on with my phone plugged in because like it has happened
yeah,
before where it'll just like play and then I wake up to my phone dead.
yeah.
But it always has to be something that like I'm not quite interested in because otherwise, it's like it plays, I fall asleep in 5 minutes,
Right.
and now not only like did I not listen to it, but it's not even on my like keep
Here's the
watching, like
thing.
watch.
Yeah, here's the thing though. If people want to do that with this episode, you're going to get halfway through and you're going to be, "Oh, I fell asleep. Now I got to go back and listen again." Gives us another play. So,
See what
that's
happens.
that's
True.
okay too. That's okay
And
too.
while you're going back to re-listen, make sure you like it.
Yeah. And subscribe.
Give us 5 stars, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
So today we're doing the case on Janice Randle.
Right. This is a this is an interesting one. This is a really interesting one. It's not often that it takes 34 years for there to be an arrest in a case. So this one's a little unusual.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to start off with the details?
Okay, so today we are talking about the Janice Randle case. So I was a fresh baby when this case first came out in 1992, November 1992. Um, and yeah, there have been some recent updates on this case, literally as of April 1st, 2026.
And it
So,
was not an April Fool's joke.
and it was not an April Fool's joke. Yeah. I guess we're like all past the whole April Fool's situation because all these like actual events happening on April 1st, like
Yeah,
literally a spaceship taking off,
yeah. And the
it's kind of
thing,
like we
yeah,
must not care about it.
yeah. The thing is, nobody takes anything that happens on April 1st seriously because of April Fool's Day. So it could be like
Mhm.
something big happens on April 1st, and people are like, "Yeah, right. We're
Right,
not
true.
gonna bomb Iran. What are you talking about?"
Yeah, exactly.
So
So,
the
yeah.
timeline, I like you said, it was November 2022. Yeah, 1992. Um, she was found dead in her bed in Graham, Washington.
hmm
She had an infant daughter that was alive in a nearby crib.
18 months old, yeah.
Yeah. And her husband, or her estranged husband, because they were going through kind of a messy separation,
hmm
um, claimed that, oh, well, she might have overdosed on drugs. Um, and yeah, they were in a custody battle. So I mean, that to me, like right there, that should have been a red flag. That should have been a big red flag of, okay, these two are in a custody battle. He's saying it was probably a drug overdose.
Yeah, well, because I guess he had said that um the reason that I guess she struggled with like painkiller addiction, that she was addicted
Right.
to painkillers. But the thing is, I'm assuming back then they had a lot more like awareness still. Like it was, it's not completely like the 60s or something when serial killers just started to become a thing.
Right.
But so I feel like in 1992 when this is happening, they still should have looked into him more. I mean,
Yeah.
were husbands or spouses not prime suspects at that
Well,
time?
I mean,
Especially, did they confirm that she had a painkiller addiction?
Yeah, well, the autopsy didn't find any drugs, so there were no drugs in her system. Which, to me, if you're going to, and it said that he was a person of interest at one point, but they didn't have enough evidence. They didn't have enough evidence, and supposedly they didn't have motive. Um, but uh, yeah, but so I don't understand why they didn't investigate that further though, because they also said that there were like signs of physical injuries as well. So it's like, okay, they were going through a messy divorce. He immediately says, "Oh, it was probably a drug thing." And you're right. Like, did was there evidence that she had prescription, drugs that she was taking, the prescription
Right.
pain meds that she was taking? If there wasn't, then okay, he's just making a story up. And you know, I as I read this story, because like most of it happened in a relatively short time frame in the early 90s, and I don't want to say, anything negative about the investigators because I wasn't doing the job, and I don't know, but it almost feels like laziness. It almost feels like, oh well, the husband said this, because some of the things I read said that like they didn't because he said it was probably a drug overdose. They really didn't investigate it as a homicide until later. So where normally they would go in if it looked like somebody had been murdered and they'd treat the whole thing from the beginning as a
Oh, like
homicide,
the whole home
that
as a
didn't
crime
happen.
scene. Yeah,
Exactly.
so yeah, I guess like at that in that moment, it seemed like plausible, of oh, okay, she died from a drug overdose, whatever. If there's no sign of struggle or anything like that, the baby wasn't harmed. I guess I understand how it could have off the bat looked like a reasonable excuse. But yeah, when they did her autopsy, they found out that there was not a drop of drugs in her system, not even a little bit of drugs in her
Right.
system. They also found bruising and signs consistent with a struggle,
Right.
not an overdose at all.
Right.
Um, and in the weeks leading up to her death, her life had been changing because so she had filed from divorce from James about a month before she was found dead. So, I mean, the signs were there.
Right.
No
Right.
reason that it should have taken this long, basically.
Right.
So their relationship wasn't just ending, it had also become contentious. There was an ongoing custody dispute over, it says their children. Didn't really hear about any other kids. I only heard about the baby. I didn't really
So
see too many
she
other things.
she had an older daughter, I think, another daughter that was not his, that was from somebody else.
Oh, okay.
There were like
Like
half
stepkids.
sisters. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were half sisters.
Yeah, so reports from that time also pointed to something a lot more troubling, which was allegations of prior domestic violence. And there were also threats made in the weeks before she died. Definitely no hidden tensions that just came out the night of her murder. Like there were
Right.
it seems like a lot of signs leading up to it that pointed to James.
Right.
Um, so, yeah, despite all that suspicion and all the signs leading to that one person, the case didn't move forward, and the investigators lacked what they needed most, which was evidence strong enough to prove what happened in the bedroom beyond just reasonable doubt. So that's why no arrest was made. The case ended up cold, and here we are in
Yeah, it's
2026.
it's interesting to me though when you think about it in the context of some of the other cases we've talked about, like Scott
Mm-hmm.
Peterson, for example. They didn't really have, a lot of evidence there, like tying him to it. They had his behavior as suspicious and that kind of thing. Um, and they did have the body there, but clearly they had the body here as well. This body, they were actually able to do an autopsy on and find, like the signs of physical trauma and that. So it's interesting to me that in
Right.
this case, it was like, well, we don't really have enough evidence to charge him with anything. So, that's all. That's it.
Yeah, and maybe this will come out now, especially since they have um arrested somebody. Maybe it'll
Right.
come out in court, but I was looking up like the autopsy stuff and like what they found in that, and besides them just finding no drugs found and all the injuries and stuff, so her death was ruled a homicide on the autopsy report,
Right.
but it never came out or was publicly released a precise medical cause of death.
Right.
Like suffocation, strangulation,
Strangulation.
things like
Right.
that. That never came out. So I'm guessing that'll probably come out. I would hope in any kind of court case, cuz I
Right.
think that also would tell something huge. And what's crazy is um I'm kind of surprised that that wouldn't come out sooner. Like
Right.
in terms of like fingers being pointed to him or like an arrest being made way 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 sooner than
Right.
2026, like over
Yeah.
30
What
years later.
One of the crazier aspects to me of this is that allegedly he had confessed it to some family members in the couple of years after it occurred. He had said that he did
Oh.
it, and he staged it to make it look like she'd, um, been I don't know, had taken a drug overdose, which I don't know what that even means. Did he have a bottle of pills there that were spilled, or which if you're going to do that, not that I'm trying to help people plan crimes. Um, I do not
Right.
condone killing people, but you would think he would have like tried to get some of it into her system so that they would find something in her system. But yeah, it said that he had admitted that to some family members in the years after the murder. So it even makes it to me more strange that somehow that didn't get to the police and that something happened. That it took the daughters, as adults to push for this for something to happen.
Yeah, so something else that I was reading, the 18-month-old daughter who, so sad, she never knew her mom, and also just growing up knowing that you died in the room that your mom was murdered in is just also
Yeah.
super sad. So yeah, she grew up and got with her other siblings, it said, and she started asking questions and starting to like dig into things, which I think is what really cracked this case open. That's usually what, because if you think about it, in these you know police offices and detective offices, they have so many cold cases that
Hmm.
literally just sit cold probably forever, some of them. They
Right.
have so many cold cases just sitting there, so many people even in those cases that don't even have names attached to them, that are Jane and John Does.
Right.
So it really does take that one family member or that one new detective who started or whatever to come in and like research that case and crack it open, especially with given new technology and stuff. um and that's basically what happened with this case. So her daughters began digging into the case themselves and they revisited old details. They started talking to people and pushing the authorities for more answers. And new information resurfaced, which is when the witnesses ended up coming forward. That's the people that you're talking about, where
Hmm.
who ended up talking to James, which very crazy because um I don't know. If somebody told you, I don't know. I guess it just depends on maybe my relationship to them, because I don't know, maybe he was like kind of a crazy guy or something. I don't know, but
Oh, true.
if somebody came to me and was like, "Oh yeah, I killed her," because he's talking about his wife. So if I know his wife and you're coming to me telling me you killed her and you set the stage for this scene and all this stuff,
Yeah.
I don't know. I might be a
Well,
snitch.
and here's the bigger danger. Somebody confesses something like that to you, and you don't go to the authorities with it. Does that make you an accessory after the fact? Like, could you be
Oh
brought
yeah,
up
I
on
don't know.
charges because you knew about it and didn't
True.
do anything? Or I mean, I don't know. I don't know with it because I'm not a lawyer.
Maybe I
I,
feel like that's easy to like get out of though, because you could also just chalk it up to like
oh, I
I
didn't
didn't
believe
see
him.
it, I didn't believe him. Like he's always
Yeah,
been a
yeah,
little
yeah.
loony.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it does say that when he was arrested at 68 years old, he was living in a care center.
yeah,
So, so he was clearly not. I mean, I've seen the picture of him. He did not look like he was in tip top mental and physical condition. So,
yeah, and he pled not guilty, and his bail was set to $1 million.
yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. And what's really crazy is one of the people who was pushing for this investigation was his own daughter. You know, it was his own daughter.
Oh yeah, I think it was well, it was all of the kids ended
Right.
up teaming together.
Right.
So yeah, I'm excited to see what comes of this case.
I am too, because that, like, to your point, like that was just April 1st that the arrest happened. So
Mm-hmm.
this will be one that we'll have to watch and see what the actual court case, the actual trial comes up with. What I'm curious about is, a lot of times with these kind of murder trials, it takes years for them to get from the arrest to the actual trial. Some it doesn't. Some I can remember some very recent ones where like the person was arrested and then 6 months later they were found guilty and they were put in jail. But and I would hope that this would be one of those cases because of the age of the suspect and because of the amount of time since it happened. It's been like so long that to have it be like 2 years before the trial starts to me is just ridiculous.
I think it depends because yeah, I mean some trials I think it depends how long it takes to really find the information as well that even makes it necessary to like go forward with a trial, and that's what's really hard about these kind of cases, and what does take so long sometimes, and even in moments where he, these suspects get freed and all that stuff is because like Scott Peterson for example, when
Right.
there's no murder weapon or anything like that, it makes it all way more complicated, and you have to
Yeah.
have so much evidence like me reading this evidence, it's clear he did it.
Right.
um but you're talking gathering the people who allegedly were told by him that he did it, and
Right.
that takes time to gather up. I also think I wonder why like someone like him that did it, told people that he did it, knows he did it, why they always plead guilty no matter what,
You mean not guilty?
or not guilty. Like even
Yeah.
people that have like loudly confessed before
Right.
like
Right.
things, when they
Yeah.
plead not guilty, it's always like, wait, what? I
Yeah.
don't understand. I don't know if they're
Yeah.
looking for like a plea deal or something like that to
Could be.
wait
It
to
could be.
actually say they're
I
guilty
mean,
on,
in
but
in this case, he might think that they're not going to get a conviction. So by, pleading not guilty, he goes to trial. And, maybe because it is so long ago, all you got to do is get, one juror to say, I don't think he did it, or I don't think they
mhm,
proved that he did it.
mhm.
And then, he's getting out of paying for what he did. So I mean that's the only thing I can imagine is that, because you're right, like something like that where you already confessed it, you're at a point in your life where you think you'd be like, I yes, I should pay for that. Maybe you've grown a conscience over the last 34 years. Um, and you would think the thing to do would be say, yes, I'm going to plead guilty and, whatever. But again, and it could be on the advice of a lawyer too. The lawyer might have told him,
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be able to prove this, so you probably won't be convicted. Could be that kind of thing too.
Yeah, I think definitely depending on what the exact cause of death is, that's going to be pretty major if
Hmm.
that comes out, which I'm sure it will. And that's really all they need. Because if they can
Yeah.
come out with a cause of death of like, like suffocation or strangulation or whatever, um then you don't need a murder weapon. And then
Right.
I don't know, I feel they don't usually want you going to complete assumptions in the court. However, come on.
Yeah. 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 Well, I mean,
If it
and
walks
once
like a
you
duck,
put,
quacks like a duck, it might be a duck. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I mean, to me too, it would have a lot to do too with the reliability of the people that he confessed to,
Yeah.
because and I don't know, is that considered hearsay when somebody confesses a crime to you and you go into court and say he told me he did it, or is that not hearsay?
I
I
don't
don't know
think
what.
it's hearsay because that happens all the time in court, just in terms of
True. True.
witnesses. I feel like
Yeah, I
that's
guess
happened a
it's if
lot.
like, I think maybe hearsay is if he told, he comes to you and says, I murdered this person. And then you come to me and say, you'll never believe this, but James said he murdered his wife. Then I couldn't go into court and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
say that you told me, that that's what happened because I didn't,
I couldn't go up there as a witness and be like, "Oh yeah, no, his family told me that
yeah, yeah,
he told
yeah,
them that." Yeah, then now we're
yeah.
playing telephone.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But so to me it would depend a little bit on like how reliable of a witness is that person? Or is that somebody with, drug abuse history and a criminal record and all that kind of thing,
Mhm.
where the defense would be able to take that person on cross-examination and just make it that, well, this person can't be trusted. You know what I mean? Because
Uh,
that would be like, because otherwise,
true.
if they're like reliable witnesses, stand up people with no skeletons in their closets or anything like that, then I would think you got like two people that come up and say, "Oh yeah, he told me he did it." And then on top of all the other evidence of the bruising and whatever was going on with the divorce, because you also don't know in the
Yeah.
divorce documents, I think when you file for a divorce, you say the reason that you're filing for divorce. If there were things in there where she said that he was abusive, or if there were prior cases
Mhm.
of like, of domestic violence, that kind of thing,
Mhm.
then that would back it up, and I would think, there'd be a pretty good chance.
Yeah.
But we'll see what the evidence is when the trial starts. It's probably going to be a little bit before they start that one though.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because there's a lot of, and with a case that old too, I think what also makes it a little maybe more challenging is because I don't know if they really treated that. I mean, I'm sure they treated the room as a crime scene to an extent, but they didn't even mark it as a homicide until after the autopsy was done.
Right. Right.
So, and who knows how long it was until the autopsy was done because if it's not initially like
Yeah.
a really high profile situation, they're not rushing those autopsies. If it's just a
True. Yeah.
random, at that time, it was just a woman who was found dead in her house who they assumed overdosed on some pills. They're not rushing that autopsy through to be done like ASAP,
Right. Yeah.
like they
Exactly.
would, maybe a initial homicide. So, yeah, we'll have to see with this one, but I love when a criminal just is somehow able to get away with it for so many years. I
Yeah.
think that's just
Yeah.
wild. This man lived his whole life cuz Janice was only 34 when she passed away.
Right.
So, yeah, she would be what, like 70 by now?
68, 60,
68?
68. Yeah. That's how old he was or is. Um,
Mhm.
And
Looks a
yeah,
lot
I mean,
older than
and
that.
and we talked he does. We talked a little bit about this earlier. It to me too is one of those things where like a year after you've done something like that, or 2 years, or
Mhm.
3 years, or 5 years, I feel like you're looking over your shoulder. Once you get to like 15 years, 20 years, you're like, this is never gonna, I'm never gonna be found out on this. I'm in the clear. At some point, you just would assume that, I think. Um,
Mhm.
and so for it to, come when it did, like 34 years after, um, it took as many years for them to try him as she was alive. Or to arrest him rather, as she was alive. That's kind of crazy.
Well, I also think that that's like the huge difference of having like a police department. No shade to the police department, but like having a police department that is like really on top of it and just I don't know, I like you said earlier, I feel like it was a little bit of lazy police work to an extent,
Right.
because I think there are some police departments that immediately when they found out it was a homicide would have investigated the husband a lot more.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think a situation like this where they found out that the cause of death was homicide, they had the whole actual autopsy report and still didn't really look into the husband enough to like arrest him back
Well,
then. Like
I
you
mean,
didn't
the thing is,
investigate anything back then, it seems.
yeah, the thing is, the article I was reading from the New York Post, I think it was from, um, said that he was a person of interest. So him
Mhm.
being a person of interest, and then it's declared, which is always the case, right? And then it's declared a homicide. I mean, that's the point that I think it should have triggered things like looking into the divorce, and the reason, all the stuff I was just talking about.
Mhm.
Was there something stated in her divorce, filing? Was there prior, which I think the article did say there was prior domestic abuse,
Mhm. Yeah, there was.
things.
And like
To
threats
me
and
at that
stuff.
point, it's like, yeah, I mean, at that point, if they didn't just arrest him for it, they should have been, looking into it and trying to. And I get, that in a case like that, again, it's tough to get the evidence, and maybe it was a matter that the prosecutor, wherever this was, if they didn't have everything tied up neatly with a bow on it, wasn't going to prosecute, and that's what it came down to. Where in some of these other cases, like the Scott Peterson one, they felt strongly enough about it that they prosecuted even without, a weapon or any of that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and they were successful, right? So
Yeah, I
there
mean,
we are.
I just feel that it shouldn't get to the point of that 18-month-old baby growing up to be a 30 something year old woman and pushing this case for her mom that she never even barely got to meet.
Right.
Um, it shouldn't take that to get an arrest
Right.
for a 30 something year old case,
Yeah. Yeah. But
you
I
know?
mean, we've seen other cases where the family member advocacy is what keeps if you think of something like, Jennifer Kesse, her parents kept that have kept that investigation, have kept pushing it,
Mhm.
and that's why that one has been reopened. I think a lot of times it takes
Oh, right.
someone else as an advocate to
Yeah,
keep
true.
a case like that going. Now, Jennifer Kesse's a little different because we still don't know what happened to her. Where in this case it was a murder, so I feel
Mhm.
like the kind of the onus to investigate and to keep the investigation going really should have been on the prosecutors and the police, because like that's their job. That's why we have them. So it shouldn't have taken the family pushing it to do that, but it did, and they seem to have gotten, at least so far, they've gotten the results they wanted.
True. Yeah, I agree. I agree. So, yeah, we will definitely be keeping y'all updated with this one when
Yeah.
we have any updates, obviously.
Right.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah, and
Rest.
hopefully we'll be able to do a follow-up like after, everything goes down with more of the actual like detailed evidence that comes out in the trial. That'll be
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested to find out as well. More details in the case.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you found this one interesting. Um, and if you did, make sure you subscribe
Yeah. And
and
like,
share us with your friends.
yeah, share us with a friend and then tell them to share us with their friends,
Yeah.
which might just circle
And
back
then
to you.
yeah,
If it's
that
like
could
my
be depending
friends,
on
if it's like
yeah.
my friends, it would just come right back to me then. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Which would it'd be really weird if like the day after you shared it, they were like, "Hey, you got to check out this podcast," and you're like,
like,
I'm the one that told you
that's
to watch
my
it."
podcast. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah,
podcast.
that's true.
That's me.
Wow. Thanks for noticing. Oh, I thought they looked like you.
It's always interesting to me when I'm like listening to a podcast on Spotify and it'll like finish like playing that episode that I'm listening to on whatever it is, and then it will automatically like play the next up one in line, and every Tuesday and Thursday when I listen to them, and it circles back to, I'll just hear our little theme music and I'm like,
Do,
"Oh
do,
my god,
do, 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 do.
guess who's
Yeah, it
next?
is fun.
It's me. I'm
Yeah.
up next."
It's like when I'm on TikTok and I'm scrolling TikTok and one of ours comes up, I'm like, "Oh, I know them."
I know,
That's
sometimes
always
it's like
fun.
a jump scare for me, like, "Oop,
Yeah.
that's me.
Yeah.
Oh my god."
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
shy. I'm swiping up. I need to swipe up.
Yeah. But I like it first and then I swipe up.
Yeah, true. Yeah, go back like it. Yeah. So, anyways,
All right. Yeah. Well, thanks for checking us out this week. Check us out again Tuesday. All right, guys.
bye
Have a good weekend.
everybody.